Hello, my name is Nicholas.
Hi, Nicholas.
I'm going to be your counselor,
Okay.
and basically, just so you know, um, I'm a mandated reporter. So, a little spiel that I go through with all my clients is just letting them know if they need to report anything as far as suicide ideations, past events of trauma, depending on what level of trauma that is, possibly like physical abuse type things. Like these things I have to report. Um, if you'd like more information on that, I can provide it. Um, but yeah, so
Okay.
they had you come in here today. I see you have your little emotional support animal with you. Who is this?
This is Jordan.
Hello, Jordan.
I think I'm her emotional support.
Okay, that's fair. I like it. So, what brings you into counseling today?
Well, I've been experiencing depression. Not the sad type of depression, but like the get it done, get up, get motivated. I'm just very, I can't seem to get anything done. And when
Okay.
I do, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of, it can be stressful. But I just find myself these days because of finances being so stressful and the cost of everything. I support myself, and it's hard because I'd like to be above my finances, but I can't. And so some of the choices I've made are not good, but some of them are necessary. So that's why I've got some financial crunches here, and it and my job maybe they just the things I've gone through they seem to the physical aspects of my body show up, and sometimes because of the issues I have I can't leave the house, and it keeps me in on a day-to-day basis. And right now I'm seeing a chiropractor for that because it seems to be helping a little bit, but it's not the cure-all. And just the stresses of life. I'm watching my older son who's addicted on drugs. I'm praying that he, gets it together and goes to a rehab. And he was doing really well, but he dropped the ball and relapsed. And I don't need somebody at my door. That would be the worst. But anyway, so I deal with that a lot. You know, lots of frustration and a lot of I don't know, just people not wanting to talk on the phone. Everybody wants to text and get it over with real quick. Nobody engages anymore in society. And I even find that at church. I was going to this one church, and it was like pulling teeth to get anybody to get together, to just be a part and do something and help one another. And since I left there, I only think one person out of all the people there that I tried to touch has called me. And it's very depressing. And I have 5, 6 siblings, and none of them take time to call me. And over the past couple of years, I've tried to call them over and over, get together, blah, blah, blah. But nobody wants to do anything, you know? And after dealing with that for so long, I've stopped. It's not an attitude, it's just, you know, I can't seem to, you can't make people do anything.
Hard to connect.
Yeah, very. And I've I have a grandson I've raised since he was 2, And I've just had him move to a friend's home who offered to help me with him because he has ADHD. And that has worn me thin at my age. And it's also heartbreaking having him move out because I can't. He's 17 and he's got so much going on inside, I can't help him. I don't have the tools to finish out raising him. So this woman took him in. She's not this woman, she's a friend of ours from church, from another church. And she's doing really well with him. She can handle him. Plus, she's about 20 years younger than I am. So, you know, his father, like I said, dropped the ball. He relapsed. So he's not even in his life now, and I know he misses him. And so you have all these little things that just weigh on me, you know? And
you feel like that's kind of making the depression
yeah, it's hard. I mean, I wake up in the middle of the night with thoughts running through my head, and I have to stop so I can go back to sleep. You know, they race about what could be going on or what this or what about that. Excuse me. So I pray a lot, and I just keep the faith and just keep moving forward one day at a time. But it would be nice for people to even drop by, but God forbid that would happen anymore. You know, it's just, people they just don't engage like they used to.
Yeah.
You know, in society.
Technological this day and age. It's Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's impersonal. I mean, nobody even wants to cook anymore. Everybody wants to order out. It's just like, it's ridiculous. So I enjoy it. I mean, it's just me anyway. So, but I get frustrated. I have neighbors in my community here that they're very they don't respect what they have, you know, and they're very stop, and they're very I don't know what word
She
to
can
use.
explore. It's fine.
They they don't respect what they have, and they take for granted everything, and they have this entitlement. This is an age of entitlement where everybody thinks they should have everything handed to them and not have to work for it. And that just frustrates the heck out of me. I don't understand how a woman with children and a Mercedes parked out front, I don't get that. When I'm barely making ends meet, you know, knowing there's a system behind all that, you know. So I get very frustrated, you know.
Absolutely.
About that. But I mean, I don't know, with things that go on, this world, I don't like being in Baltimore, I guess. So I'd like to move away from all the close-knit living, because it just would seem to maybe help me just have a little more peace, but at the same time, nothing's perfect. No neighborhood is perfect, you know?
Absolutely.
So, you have anything, you know, that you might want to...
So I've been taking some notes here as we go along.
All right.
So we have a tool, I like to call it reframing. It's essentially cognitive restructuring. There was a couple things that I had noticed you said, mostly about the stress and the frustration. So when it comes to the lack of communication with others, you've definitely done your best, it sounds like, to reach out to friends and family and members from the church. Have you considered trying to maybe get on their level and use things like Facebook or any of these other forms of communication that they take part in to try to have a better level of communication with them.
Well, I I don't like the computer, and I have a hard time understanding how to post and to do all that stuff. But all that is like, look at me. This is what I'm doing,
Hmm.
and you're still not really engaging. You know, it's
So, a lot of people um, simply use it for the communication aspect. Like
yeah.
each one has its own little messenger portion.
Mhm.
Um, and are there things that clearly you like your dog, right? So like taking pictures and if you wanted to, maybe next session bring in your phone, I could show you how you can put little things up there that you like. Pictures of you with your dog would be one thing. Do you like gardening, like flowers?
I love gardening.
That's beautiful.
But
Like so you could post.
potted plants would be at this point because I have a balcony. I don't have my own
Ah, okay.
outdoors, land.
So
All I have is a balcony.
that kind of brings me to my next thing was how you were saying about like the physical stuff. Um, walking can be a really good method to
Mhm.
kind of improve circulation, blood flow, things like that. And there are some spots here in Baltimore, like on North Avenue, they have these gardens that you can go and walk around in. And kind of a twofer here, you could take some of the pictures of these flowers. They have a wide variety. You could post the things that you like. You'll see your family get more involved as they press a like, and they can add little faces and little hearts and stuff to what it is they like. And this could perhaps increase their motivation to.
Well, I think none of my brothers are. I have 5 brothers,
Okay.
so none of them are on it. I have one sister.
Are they like kind of old school? Like they like the
They're
communi-
kind of like me too, like that.
Right.
My sister and my sister-in-laws,
Hmm.
they all get on it,
Okay.
but not my brothers.
So would that be maybe another way to connect with them?
It could be,
Okay.
but we have a group chat
Cool.
on the phone when something goes on,
Okay.
or it's somebody's birthday.
So then you do have some level of communication with them.
Yeah.
It's just it sounds like the planning and the structure of just kind of having an event to make the visits is really where the trouble comes in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But when we all get together, it's like we just saw each other last week. You
Yeah.
know, unfortunately, it's still not like, I don't know what word to use. It's
Trying to find common ground, perhaps.
yeah.
Okay.
Trying to.
So I wanted to revisit the part about your son and his relapse, and then your grandson with
Okay.
like the ADHD and stuff. Because that, for me is kind of like a part of the reframing as well. There's a lot of frustration, a lot of stress. It sounds like you're doing really well with gaining help for your grandson, and I'm sure him not being here is probably causing a certain level of emotional
It
detachment.
does.
Yeah,
It
and
does.
and I can imagine with your son going through what he's going through that's very hard and very stressful as well. So one of the things I would offer, so have you ever considered changing the whole entire thought process behind that? Because
Like, how would you do that?
well, so you were saying you would wake up at night and you were having some of the racing thoughts. Does these situations, along with the stress and the frustration, give you kind of like a sense of anxiety?
It might stir that way and become that way, but I quickly douse it, by praying, and I just fall back to sleep.
Okay, so that's good. You have some tools to deal with it.
Because
That's beautiful.
otherwise your mind races and keeps you up.
Okay. So, when it comes to your son, some of like the cognitive restructuring or reframing, would be like looking at how you raised him and how you were as a mother, keeping those positives in mind, and just remembering that everybody has freedom of choice.
Yes.
Sometimes we don't make all the best choices, right? If he's done it before, he can do it again. And if prayer is one of your tools, then praying for him to get where he needs to be can also help be a way to ease your mind, alleviate the stress and the frustration. And then, when it comes to your grandson, um, kind of the same thing. Like he's in a better environment, he's flourishing. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
But
So,
he still has a lot of this underlying wants to do what he wants to do and he can't.
yeah.
Because there's really nowhere for him to go because he would get in trouble. So when he goes to the church events, the youth groups, he needs structural boundaries and fun. But if you leave him to himself, oh my gosh.
Boys will be boys.
Well, it's worse than that with him.
Okay.
He doesn't know how to restrain himself at all. His mouth, his body. I mean, he's going 90 miles an hour sitting.
Okay.
I don't know how he hears me, or hears anybody.
Yeah, that sounds frustrating as well.
And I feel bad for him. It's almost like he has a disability, but he doesn't.
Well, ADHD in itself is kind of a disability. Like, so he might have things that he likes to focus on, that will collect his attention and
Right.
keep him, and he'll probably be really good at those things. But if I'm not mistaken, you said that the lady that he stays with is 20 years younger,
About that.
and she does really well with him,
Yeah.
keeping him, as you said, structured and kind
Yeah.
of disciplined. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. He doesn't disrespect her,
Mhm.
or talk to her the way he disrespects me and talks to me, because he looks at me as being weak. He told me
Okay.
that you're weaker than me, and I don't have to listen to you, amongst other things.
I can imagine that is also stressful.
And with not having a man in the house, a husband, someone for him, I can't. It's all unraveled.
So maybe a way of looking at it is kind of letting go.
Yes.
So you say prayer. You're a Christian?
Yes.
Okay. So let go and let God is a common phrase that
Yes, it
I've been
is.
told. Is that something you feel like you could do? Kind of like change the thought process when you're feeling stressed and frustrated by what he has going on with the lady he's living with. Maybe just know that he's in good hands. Know he's doing better. He's getting the structure he needs. You said he's going to these church events,
Yeah.
so he's also getting a good foundation. If it's a church event, he's learning, lessons like biblically based that will help with character development.
He helps out, set stuff up at church.
So he's of service.
Yeah, he
Okay.
likes doing that.
Cool.
And there's two pastors, namely one of the youth pastors he clicks with really well.
That's beautiful.
But it's not like they see him every day or every other day. It's not like they're in his life more, and because they have families and jobs,
Absolutely.
But he knows there are people that care about him, but they're not his father, and that's where he would rather be, so he could unravel and act like a criminal, I hate to say it that way.
I understand. But when it comes to the issues with your son and your grandson, do you think taking that time to just kind of change of perspective, as it were, to alleviate yourself of that stress and that burden, knowing that your son is his own man, he's going to make his decisions and he will find his way back. And your grandson is in a much better place. He has the structure, and he's safe.
Yes,
Like,
he is.
So
I don't let it wear on me like I did at first.
Mhm.
And it's hard. It's like, when people die or you have a divorce, you still go through, or someone leaves, you still have all those emotions,
Yeah.
like a death. You go through stages until you come to grips with it.
Yeah.
It's been like that. But I think the hardest thing I have to deal with is motivating myself.
So that's actually what I was going to
and stop
ask you.
procrastinating,
Okay.
you know, about getting things done.
So then that comes, it would seem, comes to like the stuff with the job, the stuff with the money, and then physical limitations, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have I'm limited physically. Like, um, my son helped me with the door the other day. He carried it out here. And when I went to move it, I was like, he made it look like a feather. I was like, oh, jeez.
So like just restrictions on lifting anything heavy kind of.
Yeah, not
So,
lifting stuff or anything that takes two people to do.
but like, so that, I mean that can be quite normal, you know. Like a lot of people, um, when I think of a physical limitation, I'm thinking more of like pain when simply walking up and down stairs and like doing other things. Like if you enjoy your gardening or your potted plants on your balcony. Do you like to cook or bake or anything like that?
Yeah.
Do you face physical limitations with those sorts of things?
No.
Okay, so essentially finding the things that you enjoy to do to kind of enrich your downtime, right? Because another thing we were talking about is with like having the depression, and you were stating like those times like when you come home from work is typically the times when you feel essentially like down and you don't have the motivation, you know.
Right.
So if we were to use what we call, I like to call bringing awareness to certain things. It's called behavioral activation, right? So when we come home and the day's essentially at an end, aside from maybe dinner or taking Jordan out, right?
Right.
Um, Maybe you have a kind of a routine or a structure. Um, and this could be kind of dually tied in with some of the things you had mentioned as far as the communication. Like when you come home, rather than turn on the TV and sit down at the couch, go to your balcony, water the plants, maybe put a little, I don't know, thing together as far as a plan for cooking a recipe or, um, you said you had neighbors and they frustrate you, correct?
Yeah, some of them do because they.
Maybe, and this sounds crazy, but this is a little wild approach that I have. Bake them some cookies. Don't even tell them who did it. Just drop it off at their door. Just do something nice.
Well, I did that at Easter with a lot of people. I dropped candy off
That's beautiful. Okay,
with
so
a
like,
card.
how did you feel after you did that?
Well, I felt good.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
when we start to do these types of behaviors and these things that make us feel good, then we're really not in a place where we can be depressed.
Right.
I would venture to say that some of these things, um, communicating, reaching out, using your family's group text, and just essentially the things that you enjoy, right? You could take Jordan to some of these other places where these gardens are, and kind of mix it all together.
Right.
I had a client where he had really bad depression. He would do certain esteemable acts, going to the gym, running on the treadmill. That worked for him, but we need to find like your treadmill. You know what I'm saying? What
Yeah.
is the esteemable act for Jane that gets her feeling better, less depressed, and like out of herself? That's kind of what we want to explore to eradicate the behavior and the things associated with the depression,
Well, I like doing a lot of creative things.
like arts and crafts.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
floral arrangements, but everything costs money.
So
So
that
we're back to money again.
yeah, and I put that down because those were a couple of the physical aspect, the job, the money. So the job and the money really does create an issue of time and finance for you to be able to do these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a good friend of mine. He lives in Virginia, and this is how he finds cheap things for his own time-filling, creative, uh, not so much arts and crafts, but more like projects.
Mhm.
He goes to certain places, and you would have to kind of do some research on like Google.
Right.
He found a yard that when they have old pallets, before they throw them away, they let you pick through and get the good wood. He found a place where a company that did windows. Rather than dispose of the windows, he went, collected these windows, and made his own greenhouse.
That's cool.
Clearly, you don't have the property or the that's with the lifting, it's
Right.
physical limitations. I get that, but my suggestion would be to find somewhere where you could perhaps get some cheap art supplies and things that aren't too cost damaging, and
Right.
create your essentially treadmill. Create your thing that brings you that level of joy.
Yes.
When it comes to the communication, sometimes people like little gifts. Maybe make that your thing when you come home. You do the little. Did you ever do the thing during the autumn season where you'd use the wax paper and the iron with the leaves and make it? So
Yes.
like little things like that, and then send those to your
I did
families.
that with my first grandson.
There you go. So you could send him something. You could send your son something just to let him know you're thinking about him. Your brothers and sisters and their husbands and wives. And this might be received very well. This might not be received well. But just remember, your heart's in the right place, and you're reaching out and trying to establish that connection. So we kind of want to have a little bit of forward thinking with it. So um, I also wanted to get to the point. So there, I noticed you had like certain expectations for things, and
What do you mean? Like what would that
so like when you were talking about your neighbors and like essentially for like how people act and the things that go on and just like everyday life, how things go with like the communication with your family. Um, you have a way that it would go if it were like back in the day type communication. It's kind of an expectation, right? Um, and then the same thing with the neighbors. Like people won't act a certain way, and they should be more respectful. And I entirely and completely agree with you,
Yeah.
especially if you're living like in the apartment building, and it's a level of consideration that people should have. Like you're totally justified in those feelings. Um, but when it comes to the expectation, I would kind of bring it back to the reframing, right? Um, a positive thought to reframe with is that these people kind of carry themselves a certain way. You could look at that and be grateful because you were raised right. You're a good person, right?
I've got better habits, I guess.
Exactly. And then once you know that and you can kind of see that you have this ability, then you can have a certain level of empathy for them, right? And through that empathy, you could kind of feel sorry for them. Yeah?
Yeah, I do. I just saw a family. Um, they were evicted, and I feel bad for those kids.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard to have a
It's
level of
just sad.
stress and frustration towards somebody that you can empathize with and feel sorry for,
But
and then maybe in that find some forgiveness.
well, I've never had a problem with those kids, except
Right.
for their habits. They have bad habits, but it's not their fault. They're just left to run.
Absolutely.
So I would always give them popsicles in the summertime. You know,
It's
they'd
very
always
kind.
come to my door and ask me for them. But I feel sad that they're gone. But it's like, it's just sad the way these kids are today. You know? But
So,
anyway, yeah, I'm always nice to my neighbors, regardless if I want to say something. But
absolutely.
some smoke pot, and it's like that's all you smell,
Yeah.
and so
I can imagine that might be frustrating as well. So before I let you go here, the one last thing I wanted to talk about a little bit more was, the depression, and again, the awareness that you would want to bring to that is just kind of when you're feeling down and you're feeling depressed, you're aware of it.
I am.
Okay, so again, with it's behavioral activation and bringing awareness to these behaviors to help negate the depression um, is really important. Like I said, finding your treadmill. So if we kind of go back to that, I'm going to give you a little bit of homework.
Okay.
So kind of come up with 5 things that bring you joy, and then 5 things that you can do that make you feel like that are esteemable acts that
Okay.
help kind of push the depression away. And when we meet next time, I'm going to go ahead and I'll go over some tools with you as to how that can work to kind of combat the depression.
So 5 things that bring me joy and 5 things that what?
5 things that are like esteemable acts
You mean things that I do?
that make you feel better about yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Alright, good
Okay.
enough.
If you'd like, I can write that down.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely.
that.
And was there anything else that you wanted to talk about before I let you go, or
No, not right now that I can think of.
okay, you feel like
That'll
we
give me something to work on.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You feel like we kind of addressed every issue that you had, and
Yeah,
okay,
pretty much. I mean, you gotta take little steps to get better.
absolutely. Progress, not perfection. Well, thank you very much for your time. It was wonderful meeting
Okay.
you, and I look forward to seeing you in a week or so.
Alright, thank you.
All right,
Good.
bye.
Bye-bye.